I'm Judy Sandrock from MaxIQ Space. In this shorter version of the video, I'm going to take you through the ISS Rideshare 2025 Workshop 4 agenda. And then you're going to find that this short video is followed by two recordings of the workshops, two very different workshops. And that is why we've included both recordings. In terms of the agenda that we had a look at the launch update, the schedule, and how that has actually changed the schedule, preparing for the NASA high altitude balloon project, and as well as the new hardware that was received with the software that was preloaded. And finally, we had a look at the new timelines and the next steps that need to be taken. So from an ISS launch perspective, we had a call with NanoRacks, who are actually now called Voyager Space, and they have confirmed for us that we will be on the ISS resupply mission in October 2025, and it'll be a SpaceX launch from Florida. They weren't sure if they were going to be able to fit us into the manifest for the June-July launch, and so we felt instead of being let down potentially and move to a further date, let's actually go for something where we can be confirmed. So as you will see from these timelines have really started to shift. So January 14th and 15th, those were the dates of the workshops that we actually had these live. And you can see that all the timelines are starting to shift. The important one is that we are going to be able to participate in the NASA high altitude balloon launch from Fort Sumner in New Mexico. And that date is always scheduled for August 15th. And sometimes it can move by a few days. We will receive those payloads back very late August, and then we can finalize our ISS payloads. They're not going to be the identical X chips that we're going to fly both on the NASA high altitude balloon and the ISS project, because those that come back from the New Mexico mission are going to be full of dust. So we're going to have nice and bright, shiny new X chips for our ISS payloads. And then you will see in the longer recordings that we went through the new hardware, the flight cores that have been shipped. They were shipped with software preloaded so that the data from all of the X chips, the standard X chips, is saved to the SD card. It also connects to Wi-Fi, and it'll also connect to Kibana, like all the other kits. And yes, and then we went through the timelines and the next steps. So thank you. That's all for the short video. And now we're going to cut to the much longer recordings of the workshops themselves. Alex, you held up the prototype boards. Alex, you held up the prototype boards, and those are actually the prototype boards. Yeah, the other one, the green one. That is for. No, you should have a bigger one.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. So that is the size for the ISS project. So those Bianca is referring to as the NanoRacks prototype boards. So everyone will have some of those. Mike, I was wondering, have you received your package?
Sorry, I'm still just coming to life. This is my first early meeting attendance.
I'm so sorry.
No, I haven't received ours yet.
Okay. Okay.
But I saw the shipment confirmations come through. So
okay, good.
it
That's on its way to you. Okay,
takes a
that's
while.
cool.
Yep.
That's great. Richard and Don, yours is at the postnet. I've sent Declan all the details, so he's going to be picking it up.
Okay. So I
probably
don't
later today.
I don't
No,
need to
don't
pick
worry. No, it's okay. He's got youth on his side. Let him do that. Yeah, he's team leader, so let him deal with that. Great. So I'm sharing this slide here. So let me get to the agenda. We have a launch update for you. Then we're going to have a look at the schedule because of the launch update, the schedule has changed somewhat. We're going to have a look at how we're going to prepare for the NASA High Altitude Balloon Project, your new hardware and software, because maybe you've got some questions for Bianca, and then timelines and next steps. So in terms of our launch updates, Mike Galvin, Bianca, and I had a call last week with NanoRacks. They're actually now called Voyager. They were acquired by Voyager Holdings, so we now need to refer to them as Voyager. We had a call with them, and they are able to confirm with us that we're actually going to be on the October 2025 resupply mission to the International Space Station. So it was a little bit tight in terms of the June-July launch. There's also a little bit of mystery around that launch. Northern Grumman, who had the responsibility and the contract for that resupply mission, they have it manifested flying on their Antares out of from Wallops. But then again, Firefly are definitely not ready. They are not ready to be able to do that. Also, the vibe we got from Voyager was that was not going to happen. It was still going to be SpaceX from Florida. But unfortunately, with the Cygnus module is actually smaller than the SpaceX Cargo Dragon. So it was going to be a little bit touch and go whether they could accommodate us or not. And so we kind of came to the conclusion that we would prefer to be able to confirm October than say to everybody, we have to be ready for June, July, and then the launch slips. And then we can't get onto that manifest and we have to go on to another one. Mike, I don't know if you want to come in here. We experienced this with the ThinSat program, is we kept on getting bumped from launch to launch, and it was, for the schools, it was very frustrating. Mike, Bianca, I don't know if you want to come in here.
Yeah, I mean, launch dates are always a moving target, but with this program, we're trying to see if we can achieve better reliability than some of the STEM launch programs in the past. So that's one of the main goals of the program, and hopefully this was the right decision towards that goal.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Also, the thing is that
just selfishly, our students can definitely benefit from having the rest of the school year to finish their payloads, because they have some ambitious ideas and they haven't really gotten them working yet. And Princeton's semester is very short, so they get back in 2 weeks, and then it's a race to the finish to have things ready for mid-March, which I think was the original plan. So we're definitely going to use the rest of the semester to try to make better payloads.
Okay. Great. Alex, from your side, I hope this isn't a disappointment for you.
We're going to space. I don't care. This is all about, as long as we're still going, that's the important part. Our kids will catch up, and it gives me more time to build a little bit more mystique around it. And besides, I would love for it to coincide with the grand opening of our new science building in the fall, which will open roughly, the grand opening, the ribbon cutting will probably be around the same time. And there's a beautiful deck from which we can watch the launches, because you can see
that
them
is
from
true.
So
wow. So we're going to come to you. So we're coming to you.
Well, no, you can come visit me, but if you can get closer, I would get closer. For us, it's still a little, a little pencil thing that goes up in the sky. The closer you get, the cooler it is. But yeah, but no, but we will definitely, like, depending on what time of the day the launch is and everything else and what we can get at, I will set up, by that point, set up cameras and videos, and we're gonna watch that sucker launch. And I'll live stream it. I'll do whatever we need.
That's great. Yes, Bianca.
There was also the case that by doing the October one, we get on a Falcon. If we were pushing it for like an earlier launch, we were gonna go from Wallops Island, isn't it correct?
Well, the thing is that that's how Northern Grumman have it manifested, but Firefly's not ready. So the Cygnus is probably still going to fly with the Falcon for, I don't know how long, until Firefly's ready. Amit, I know that you are commuting. I'm just wondering if you would like to comment on this change.
If you are in this industry, you know that the word to describe everything related to flight is dynamic. So you got to be prepared for being pushing back and pushing back. It's not the first time for us. We have been flying the balloon and the sounding rocket so many times. So we know that anything could happen and anything can push that for another date, especially in Wallops, which is not a little bit reliable. The balloon too, because of the conditions of the weather in New Mexico and with SpaceX, it is a little bit more reliable, but you depend on the weather and whatever it's happening around the resupplies mission. So we're fine, we're good. It's gonna give me more time because you know that we entered the program a little bit late. So it's gonna give us time. I have a very busy second semester, not only with MaxIQ, I also have other projects flying in the sounding rocket and in the high altitude balloon. So it's gonna be a little bit comfortable for me, so I can have more time to work with my kids. And I really like the idea to be in October because it's going to be allowing me to put in the budget for the next year, the probability to move my kids to Florida and watch the launch. So yeah,
yes,
very convenient
that's
for me.
true. Yeah, absolutely. It was one of our considerations because we felt that if the launch was during the summer, it could be prohibitively expensive for the students to be able to go to the launch. Whereas being in October, and Alex, maybe you can give us some insight here, but is the weather a little bit more kind of predictable in October rather than June, July, August?
Hurricane
We have
season.
hurricanes.
Hurricane season runs from August to November.
Oh, okay.
So while the day-to-day weather is almost extremely predictable during that stretch of time, depending on whether it's early October or late October. Early October would get us an annual rainstorm anywhere between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. for anywhere between 10 and 30 to 40 minutes, with a huge amount of lightning and everything else. So that in and of itself is a fun Florida experience. But other than that, the bigger challenge at that point is hurricanes. And there was a launch just post one of the ones that came through last fall. They actually had it up on the pad and it turned enough that they didn't have to bring it back down. But to be fair, I'm sitting here in the local and we get news every time they put one, they stack one and get it ready, and they can do that pretty darn fast. So it's not showing up for a launch. You might miss it because if it's weather delays, there's nothing they're going to be able to do. But it's going to be much more reliable than Wallops and and other facilities.
Great. Perfect. Perfect. There was another thing that Voyager came back with as well, and that is that with Nanorac's acquisition by Voyager Holdings, Voyager didn't like the price we were quoted. So thank goodness they are honoring the quotes that they gave us. But for next time, we're going to have to make a plan because they've doubled it. So, but what they did say to us was that with a 2U nanolab is almost the same cost as launching a 4U nanolab. So maybe if we do some work on the hardware and actually accommodate more participants, we're still going to have the same net results, because we really do need to we need to ensure that it is affordable. But yeah, I'm really pleased that they honored that price. And it was something that we were very firm with the team when we received the original quotations. We said to them, it has to be all in, because we are not going back to people after the fact and asking for more money. So they have honored that. So that's perfect. Great. So let me share once again. There we go. And so yeah, SpaceX from Florida. So as you can see, I've now been working with our shared sheet, and it's at the moment my brain's a little bit fried around the schedule. I've got to be honest with you. So we are going to be able to do the high altitude balloon launch from New Mexico. We are going to be able to include that in this project. Our challenge could be that when those payloads arrive back, it's going to be very, very, very soon before we need to send off our flight hardware for the ISS project. Also, the thing is that we're definitely not going to be able to fly exactly the same payloads because Jim Gorman said when they received the payloads back from the launch last year, August, everything was full of dust and sand and grit. So we're going to need to use pristine, brand new hardware for that. But for me, what's really important with this entire project is getting into a rhythm of meeting deadlines, having the code working, saving data to the SD card, being able to recover it, sending payloads off for a launch, doing the launch, receiving it back, analyzing the data, etc. Getting into that cycle. So what's really nice is we're going to be able to complete that high altitude balloon launch and get those payloads back before we do our ISS projects. So I have to apologize for this. We took the high altitude balloon project out of January, and now we're putting it back in August. So now it's still before, but I'm gonna hang on to what Amit said. It's dynamic. So yeah, I am. You can see this is a work in progress. This schedule over here. Mike Galvin, I remember your students were a little bit disappointed that we weren't doing a balloon launch. So I was just wondering if this suits you a little bit better.
Yeah, and they're much more excited to be going on one of the giant NASA balloons than, a club balloon. So they were fine with it. I mean, we actually had our payloads ready for the
Yes.
for the January one, but they're happy to wait and are excited about doing it on a big NASA launch instead.
Fantastic. Richard.
Oh, great. Hi, everyone. just around the delay, more time is generally good. However, it does impact Declan quite severely as he starts his matric exams. So, but we do have succession, as you know. We have Gerard and Connor. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. So that's great. More time is fantastic. And then what did I want to say? I wanted to say something else about it. There was something else I wanted to say. It'll come back to me. Okay, thanks.
John.
Just taking Declan and Connor into account, they're representing South Africa at the International Physics Tournament in Sweden. And we're away I think from the 26th or the 27th of June until about the 8th of July. It's just when you plan your workshops, if you can just take that into account, so that Declan and Connor I don't want them to miss those critical workshops.
Okay. Don, can you just pop me a mail with those dates, please?
I'll pop you the mail with it. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
great.
think Richard, with the October launch and that, I mean, that's the work that Declan and them need to do is quite a bit before that. So I think it's away from his exams. I don't think it should be problematic.
Also, when does the exam starts? I mean, you're in the Southern Hemisphere. So it should be like October, November, or December.
The big thing is they write prelims in September, preliminary exams, and then they write mid-year exams in and around about May, beginning of June. But I think Declan will be fine. I think he'll be okay. I'm his teacher.
Yeah, okay. I mean, the thing is that you get more time in the other end. So if he just worked like nothing changed,
yeah, I think he'll be fine.
I
think he'll be fine. He's going to be fine. The delay, I think the delay is actually good. It gives us more time. Oh.
And sorry, and then just the other thing that that I was going to bring up was, and it's gone again. Oh my goodness me, I'm still on that.
Get like
getting us here. All day.
Write it down when it comes up next time.
Yeah, I remembered. Okay, just as long as it happens this year. That's really important. As long as the launch happens and we've got the data back by the end of the year.
No, it will.
Holiday Alzheimer's, okay.
Yeah, no, it's it will happen this year.
Yeah.
It will. Okay. Great. And so, yeah, I was thinking maybe what we do is, I don't know if anybody wants to discuss the new hardware that has arrived. Bianca is here. And what we did is we pre-flashed these cores, these flight cores that you've received. We pre-flashed them with Arduino software that if you've inserted the micro SD card into the onboard interface on the board itself, it will read the data from the sensors and write it to the card with all of the sensors that you have. So, of course, except for those that you're prototyping, but what it'll do is it'll write the data for all of the sensors. So it already has that software on it. Bianca developed that over his holiday. Thank you, Bianca. And we thought it would be a good idea to flash it so that we were testing the cores at the same time from a quality perspective. So you already have software that will run if you find that your students are struggling a little bit with that.
Judy, if I can just come in, it's the same software that runs on the other core. It's the same starter software. The only thing that's modified for this core is that it uses the SD card that sits on it. So that's the only difference. So if you put a display on, it will also show it on display. So all the different things that you're used to from the small core will also be the same on this core here. So that's the only difference there is, and we especially done it for those who kind of like stressing over whether they're gonna have their kit ready and all that kind of stuff, because it literally just a matter of clicking the other sensors on, and then your kit is ready if you don't want to do anything special. So it stores on the SD cards, and it comes a separate file. You can obviously just download the unplug the SD card and view it on your laptop. Double click on it and we'll open it up in whatever spreadsheet you have.
So this is what we're supposed to look like, right? Roughly.
It's a little too big.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have
it's
to
an
choose
either
between
or.
yeah. You have to choose between those 4 sensors and the prototype card.
Okay. So we're just talking about, as I now get it all back together, I'll just put it together with one. That.
Yeah. That's correct.
Okay.
And the SD cards have to face away from the sensors and prototype cards. And just obviously, it's while you're testing it, you can have it whatever. Especially also because the USB port there is, of course, still working. If you want to use the USB port to see data and things like that, or program it yourself.
So you're saying that when
You can't put it on that side.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
can only
no,
put
no,
it on that side. Yeah.
yes. I just had it for
It's
measurement and layout purposes. So hang on,
Yeah.
we'll get it done. All right.
And when
So
there's like that.
all right. So then
And when it's
if we
yeah.
do want it, so for us that are 3 groups, so it's either
Yeah.
these or custom. So we're gonna want to make really good. We're gonna have to really work then, Richard, to put some more interesting custom sensors on this, since it's only going to be the board.
Well, there is another option.
Mhm.
You've got a little green board.
Yep.
Okay. So you can also put a sensor on that board. So you can combine our sensors, and so you can have 3 of the white sensors, and then you can put your own green sensor on that one.
Okay.
When you can also do that, you can put 2 or 3 or whatever you want, any combination. But it's a combination of the white sensors and the small green sensors up to 4, or the big prototype board.
Okay.
So yeah, or the last option is, of course, that you build a board from scratch.
The big prototype board turns into a little bit of a puzzle as to how to route your jumper wires
Yeah.
around. It's easy if you put one sensor down on it, but if you start to put more sensors down on that little board, it becomes a little jumper wire routing puzzle. But I can say proof of concept, we managed to fit 3 independent inertial measurement units on that and route them all independently, all working simultaneously. So you can put more than one sensor on there. It's not impossible.
All right. So I could just tell all my kids that if they can figure out a way to put 4 sensor boards on there, they can go to Princeton.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the application.
That's a start.
If you can beat 3, you're in.
In fact, you graduate. Michael
But
just laughed.
jokes aside, I would say definitely start with 1 just to get it working, and order more prototype boards if you want to start to get more ambitious, because those things are super cheap.
I'll ship mine. I'll ship mine to Declan because he's the one that's doing the custom.
Well, okay.
So just curiosity here, Mike, why didn't you use 3 of the small ones? Can you help
We
on
just
that one?
we just wanted to exercise the proto board because it was kind of
Okay,
our
that's
idea.
cool. Yeah. Okay. You feel you feel obliged. Now
Well,
you
we didn't,
complained so many times.
we didn't know the challenge before the challenge started. You look at it and you think, oh, it's a breadboard. This should be easy. We can pop some things. And then you start populating it and it turns into this snake maze puzzle.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, this is a puzzle. So we didn't know what we didn't know, and we wanted to try out the proto board. So that's how we ended up there.
Great. Anybody else with anything?
All right, so I can't get
Would
all my
it,
connections right, but there we go. That would be for the video
Yeah.
for posterity.
Yeah.
That's what we would be working on. Okay.
Yeah, that'll be 2 sensors and 2 prototype sensors.
Yeah. I got
Alex,
everything.
please hold that up again for the video.
Oh, yep.
Sorry.
Let me get.
I didn't pin you in time.
Okay, hang on. I'm gonna get it real close. It won't be perfect, and it definitely won't be the right way, right orientation, but so there we go. That's our basic footprint from a 4U, the 4 square modules plus the new controller.
Yeah.
You're not getting into Princeton with that stuff, Alex.
Yeah, I know, but technically I went to Rutgers. Princeton didn't want me in the first place, so that was.
I can say it took us forever to figure out, actually seeing the little green ones, Bjarke, that Alex was just holding up. It took us forever to figure out actually how to use those. So if you can figure that out on the first try, that might also be usable for Princeton admission. But Bjarke, jokes aside, I think just because of how the footprint forced you to put the labels on that one, the pin labels, it proved to be quite confusing for us to figure out how that one was routed. And we actually had to stare at the Eagle file to figure out exactly how to use that one. So heads up that there's a video about how to use all those proto boards. Heads up that one in particular might demand a little clarification.
So
because,
if I can just, sorry, Mike.
Well, the text label, if I remember correctly, the text labels are on the opposite side of the chip than we would have expected them to be. And I think just because you were trying to get them out of the way of some stuff, but it caused a lot of confusion with our students because they're just simple Princeton students.
Okay, so can I just say a couple of things with the prototype board? So here's a version. It's white, but we made them green because we changed the strategy for prototype boards. But this is a board where I put a sensor on it here. Sorry, there we go. So that's the prototype board, and the problem is, of course, that you have to wire it first, and then you actually cover the labels because they're underneath here. So what you do here is that, I don't know if this is visible here, but as Mike said, there's a video about how to use this in here. We've done a new board that is considerably easier to use, and that looks like this one here. So a number of so this old one here, that can work with any kind of I2C sensors from any supplier that, of course, use 0.1 inch pin spacing. And for us outside US, 2.54 millimeter pin spacing. So this one here uses what SparkFun and And Adafruit also have what's SparkFun call a quick connect and what's Adafruit call STEMA QT. So it has like underneath the board here, there is like a connector. So there's a connector sitting here, and then you get these short cables, and you simply just click it in to the board on top here. And this board is not, there's no soldering here. I simply just screwed it in. The board have 4 holes with an inch between, because that's what most of these boards have, 2 holes with an inch between. So there's 4 of those. And you can simply just screw it together and get this quick cable, and then you can just click it in. So this thing here requires no soldering at all, and no kind of like figure out how you route this thing here. And of course, it takes up the same space as the other one. I mean, there's cables here, but that can that you can tie off if you want to. So that's another prototype board that makes it somewhat easier. And then there's also this
Sorry,
prototype board. But
Bjarke, I need
yeah.
to pause you. Sorry, I need to
Yes,
pause
go
you.
for it.
Everybody's only received these boards.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So if anybody would like those quick connect boards, please let us know, because we would need to order them. And therefore I want to order them in really good time. Because Bjarke, I mean, we did a prototype run and they worked.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
haven't done a full production run. So if there's any interest in using those boards, then let me know. Please pop me a mail so that we can actually do a production run. Sorry,
Oh, yeah,
Bjarke.
that's correct. No, absolutely. Got a little bit ahead here.
Sorry, I interrupted you. You were going to talk about another board.
No, that was it. Yeah, that was it. Oh yeah, no, there was one thing more regarding these boards here. So these ones where you solder on, okay? The best way of figuring out how these works. So what you should be able to see when you get this board here is a white line around those connectors that are related to each other. Okay, so you will see these lines. So these long lines here is related to the same thing. So there's a text at each end, and then in the middle these ones here go vertical, and these one horizontal, and these ones go vertical in here. And there's 4 pins opposite each other, as far as I recall. Yes, 4 pins. And you'll be able to see how they're grouped. So the whole thing is that you put like board in the middle here, and then you wire them across. Now, you did that if you had like, you can have, just use one row, and then you wire to these back panels here. But my point with these boards here, if you kind of like don't really know how, or you can't really see it and things like that, take your voltmeter out and put it to conductivity testing, and you can kind of like just figure out which pin touches each other. Especially on the small board here, if it's confusing, then just take the voltmeter out and see which pin is actually connected underneath. That will make it somewhat easier to kind of like maybe use it.
Bjarke, I'm remembering I pulled up the GitHub for that, and I'm remembering what our confusion it was. So I'm just going to screen share for a second in case it helps anybody.
Go
But
for it.
we're quite in the weeds at the moment, so don't anybody feel like you need to follow along with this. But I'm just trying to give feedback and help people skip ahead if they want. So this is the one that everybody has, right, Judy?
Yeah.
So what we were really confused about is we solder our device down to these pads, correct?
Yeah, you use the piece, the breakout board that you buy, you put into that. That's correct.
Yeah. And then these pads just connect straight across
underneath.
these.
They're already connected, yeah.
Yeah. There are these pads are just replicated. Sorry, I'm losing my annotate. These pads are just replicated. Geez, where's my annotate? Oh, okay, I got it. These pads are just replicated straight across here, like that.
Yeah.
So these labels are not applicable to this row of pads.
No,
It's applicable to this row of pads,
that's
but
correct.
you just couldn't fit those labels down there, I think.
Yeah.
So we solder our device here. It gets re-replicated 1-to-1 here.
Yeah.
And then we need to start crisscrossing. We just jumper wire our signals down here to get to these pads. But the punchline, which I'm really starting to confuse myself, but the punchline is these labels are the labels for these pads. And
That's correct.
that's what confused us for a while. So hopefully that helps somebody if they're skipping ahead to that.
Yeah, so this is also going to make more sense. I'll just leave it up, please, Mike, if you don't mind. This is also going to make sense once you have the sensors in hand. So when you buy the sensors, so for example, I have on this one here, I have something. What is this? This is a ITG MPU. I think this is actually some sort of IMU. And on this one here, I have 8 pins. So these 8 pins I can put in on any of the 10 pins on the top row on the screen. So those pins on the top row is just like, there could have been 12, I just fitted 10 because you could maximum have 10 signals. So these ones, you can use any of these pins. So if you have a sensor that has 5 pin, you can slot it in from 1 to 5, from 2 to 6, and so on. I have one here that have 8 pins. I could slot that in from 2 to 9, or from 1 to 8, or whatever I want to. And then on this one here, I have, of course, I have the 4 signal that's important here. I have power, so VCC and ground, and I have I2C, which is SCL and SDA. The other pins on this one here is called XCL and ADO and interrupt and things like that. I don't need that for anything. So what you want to do is that you want to make sure you have VCC, SDA, SCL, and ground, because that's what your sensor will be using. Make sure it's a I2C sensor, by the way. If it's not an I2C, you're gonna start having a headache with this thing here. If you have a sensor, for example, let's say you want to put an analog sensor in, you could put it in and use the I/O port, and then of course program ADC on board. Sorry, I'm getting technical here again, but you could program an ADC, ADC in your circuit and have an analog sensor that go into the I/O pin. But the important part is that you use the SDA and SCL for I2C, because the other sensors also uses those pins, so you can't suddenly use them for something else. So that's the 4 pins that's important. And as Mike here have done, is that he's put the name on this thing here. But let's say I put something in where pin 8, the first pin to the left, let's say that's ground GND on my board here. So if that's ground here, then I have to make a cross from that pin all the way across to that pin over there. Okay, that's how it's done. Let's say the next one is actually VCC. So number 2 pin is VCC, just for something. Then you take that pin there and you cross it back there. Okay, and so on. So that's actually that's how you use this thing here. And Mark is right. The label can be misleading. Well, they are misleading, so I'm not going to apologize for that, other than they are. But that's how it works. So it's simply just to indicate each of these columns, when we look at it from this thing here, how they are connected. And those 4 pins on the bottom, the first 4 pins on the bottom, the first 3 and the last pin on the bottom row have to be the one you make sure you have fitted in. And of course, this is 3.3 volts. So also just make sure of that. Okay. I think that's enough for prototyping. But I can, once you get into it and you start trying and all that kind of stuff, then, let's bring it up again if it's if you try it and it doesn't work. So I just want to say, if your plan is to like use 2 or 3 or 4 sensors, okay, then I feel that will be an easier board to work with than the big prototype board. Once you get the hang of it, and the whole thing is that once you kind of like figure out how to put it together, then you can test one board at a time. So you don't have to, like, if you put something on a big one here, then you get into a situation where it can be difficult if you have one of them is like screwing up. And one of the reasons why it can screw up is because all these sensors have an address. So when you talk to them using a specific address. If you put 2 of these boards in, obviously if you put 2 of the same boards in, so I have 2 of the same here that sits on different boards, but that doesn't matter. But if I put 2 of the same in, they will have the same address, unless that your board have an address changing facility. Now that will be documented in datasheet, and that's going to be a little bit difficult, but it typically involves taking one of the other pins you're connecting and connect them either to ground or to VCC. Ground or to VCC. But otherwise, so the reason I'm saying that is that once you have your sensors, figure out, hopefully the addresses are all different. And if the address is all different, you are safe. If not, call me.
Great. Bianca Amit has made a suggestion in the chat. She's saying,
Okay.
can I suggest a fritzing or another diagram to show the connections of the wires so that the kiddos can visualize it better?
I would do a
So
fritzing.
maybe that would be fantastic. Thank you. Also, what we did is in this latest shipment, we had 10 of these boards. And there's plenty more where these came from. So, you can use them almost as consumables before you start using the larger boards. That is great.
Also,
Anything else?
another
Yes,
reason.
Bianca.
Yes. So I also just want to say, using, of course, the smaller boards, you're buying into the whole ecosystem here that you can actually unplug one sensor, you can use it on another board and things like that. Once you put it into a bigger board, you're kind of like trapped. You have to use all of them. If you, for example, want to test a specific sensor on a balloon flight and you want to have other sensors and then balloon flight, well, then you're stuck to this. If you say, no, I just want to test the one IMU or the one special IMU I have here. I want to test it against the standard IMU, but also need to kind of like check the weather. Then you have them on the small ones. You can of course just plug them in as you want to. 4 sensors and a big board, you kind of like locking yourself in. The reason why we have the big board here is that some actually want to do way more complicated things. They have maybe more than 10 pins on it. There might be other things where they want to use some of the other signals. There's on this thing here, you can use the RxD, TXD, and IO. So if you have something special, you want to maybe run that way, that gives you a chance to do that.
Bianca, we have the big board because Mike wanted it. So on my stock sheet, I actually refer to them as the Galvin boards.
Galvin, you have to use it in future.
Yeah,
Even
we
if
flew
it's a
it already.
doorstop.
I mean, we did it. We flew it already.
Yeah, I know. We saw it. Not this one, by the way. You flew the previous one, huh? Did you fly this one? Yeah, that one Judy holding up, you flew.
The bigger one.
Yeah,
We flew the bigger one.
Yeah.
Great. Are there any other questions or comments? Is there anything else that anybody would like to discuss? Or stay on after we close or something like that?
Judy, if I can just mention, we obviously going back to school tomorrow, but we're not seeing the students until Monday. But as soon as I see Declan and Connor and the rest, I'm going to try and get them into a meeting so that we can just touch base as to where we all are. And I'll give you feedback on that.
Perfect. Great.
And then, Don, I would really like us to have a meeting just with Alex and with Saki Kamva, just to kind of update where what happened with the ASRI launch, and it'd be great if Yaku could give us just some feedback with the data there.
Sure. But we'll discuss that tomorrow when we see each other as to when we do that. Okay. Cool.
Great. Okay, Mike is going to stay on. Wonderful. And Mitch, you're at school now.
I just arrived at school. I don't know if we have a little bit of time tomorrow. If not, I don't know if Yark is going to be with us on Monday, on that meeting on Monday.
Yes,
But
definitely. Yeah,
yeah,
we can arrange that.
The CAD file, the SDL file.
Okay.
So I can put the MaxIQ and fly. I don't have a flying date yet, but they are targeting April, the last 2 weeks of April, and the first two for May for the zero-G flight. And then
fantastic.
I don't know if you put the link on the Canvas course for workshop 2 and workshop 3, so I can do a review with my kids.
I will find out where those videos are, yes, and update those links. Thank you very much. Yes, I saw your note on that those links seem not to be working. But yes, thank you. That's perfect.
Okay.
Great.
I'll see you tomorrow again. I'm gonna
Fantastic.
connect.
Okay,
And then
let's do that.
on Monday.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Annette. Thanks, Annette. Thanks. Cheers. Thanks. Richard and Don, I will see you day after tomorrow. I am hoping to go and fetch that ASRI payload tomorrow. Let's see. They haven't come back to me who exactly has it in Hermanus, but I want to go and fetch it so that you can have something gritty for your reception. Great.
And guys,
That'll be amazing.
Please stay awake tomorrow to midnight, huh? There's a launch. Mike, on the other hand, he just have to go home early afternoon. I think it's 4:00 Texas time. The next version of Starship is flying.
Oh, wow.
And we're looking forward to see Blue Origin's NT1 flight also. We were sitting glued to the screen here Monday morning for 2 hours until they scrubbed it, but let's see when they fly.
Great. Thank you. Judy, I will contact you again tomorrow if that's okay, just for a brief chat.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Thanks, Judy.
Fantastic.
Bye, everyone.
Great. Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone. Have a great
Cheers.
2025.
Cheers.
Yeah, thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, bye. Welcome, everybody, to workshop number 4 of our ISS Rideshare for 2025. And I can see that we are joined by Ricky Waller and the team. So I'm just wondering if everybody would like to say hello. And how are you guys doing? I'm not sure if you would like to introduce yourself.
Say hi. We are International Leadership of Texas. It's a public charter in College Station. So we are all here with the kiddos.
Fantastic. Amanda, wonderful to see you, and it's wonderful to see the team as well to join us in the workshop. We are joined by a number of the students from South Africa. So we have who are mostly grade 12. Declan and Connor, I know that you guys are leading the team. We also have Carrot who's joined us and Caden. And yes, Amit, thank you very much for joining us. Also from Texas. We have a very strong representation from Texas today. And Jim Gorman. I was wondering, do you have any of your students with you at the moment, Jim, or is it?
No, not at the moment. No.
Okay, it's just you. Okay, perfect. And then Bianca and myself from MaxIQ Space. So great. So what I've done is that I have drawn up an agenda for today's session. And what we're going to be looking at is we do have a launch update. Mike, very nice to see you. Greetings and Happy New Year. We haven't chatted yet this year, Mike. And then we have because of the launch update, we have a schedule update. And then I'd like us to begin the preparation for the NASA High Altitude Balloon Project, and then also to discuss the new hardware that you've received as and the software that comes with it, and the timelines and next steps. So to begin with, the launch update. Last week, Bianca, Mike Galvin from Princeton, and I had a call with the team that used to be called NanoRacks. The NanoRacks as a company was acquired by Voyager Holdings, so they are now called Voyager. And they have let us know that we are confirmed for a resupply mission with SpaceX to the International Space Station in October this year, 2025. It was very much touch and go whether we were going to be able to get onto the flight, which is June, July. There's been a number of reschedulings in terms of the resupply missions, and they were not confident that they were going to be able to give us the volume. And we felt that it would be a lot better if we could confirm October. We didn't want everybody to rush for their payloads to be ready and then to find out, oh, now, the launch, we've been now pushed to the following launch, that kind of thing. We experienced way too much of that with the ThinSat program. We were actually pushed for a whole 2 years. Every 6 months, they would push us a further 6 months, and that went on for 2 years, and it's very disruptive. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to be able to confirm that, and it is going to be a SpaceX launch that is going to be from Cape Canaveral, from Florida. So at least now we can plan around that. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to get some feedback from everybody about that is a change. Mike, I don't know if you want to give some feedback on if that's okay for you, if that suits you.
Which mic are you referring to, me or the other mic?
You.
Oh,
Mike Waller, yeah.
Yeah. No, that works fine.
Okay, October. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Declan, for you and your team, how is that going to work for you?
Yes, so that should be fine for us, but I'm now just wondering primarily if the launch date is changing, will the date which we send off our payload also change? Because I know currently it sits at March the 15th, or that's the one that I currently have written down to send off all our payloads. Are we going to now push that ahead since the launch date is at a later time?
Absolutely. Yes, that is all going to change. So yeah, we're not sticking to that hard and fast deadline. Amanda, for you and your team, I think this is the first time you're hearing of this.
Yeah, we are flexible. We're good with whatever is needed, and we're in a way it'll give us a little bit more time to tinker, and we're okay with that.
Okay, absolutely. Also, the thing is that for you, it doesn't fall in the summer break. So it's going to be a lot easier for everybody to be able to maybe even attend the launch or watch the launch. So that is wonderful. Jim, I know that you and I have chatted about it offline, and Amit and I chatted about that as well. And is there anybody else, Gino, Caden, that if you'd like to come in and make some comments on that?
I don't really have anything.
Okay, great. Gino,
Didi,
thank you. Yes.
I'm going to ask you something. Can you send us an email with this launch update and the date that they are expecting to go up? Because you know that we have, some of us have grants, and we need to tell the
Yes.
people, okay, you are not going to see the thing complete because we have a delay in the launch, but we have been working on. So that could be very beneficial, at least for me. I don't know if there's another teacher with grants, but yes. And then I don't remember from yesterday if you mentioned the high altitude balloon mission, if we have a date or something.
Okay, yeah, I'll certainly get to the high altitude balloon, definitely. Yes, I have. I'm awaiting the final contract from Voyager, and when I have that with the confirmed launch that it'll be on, I'm certainly going to let everybody know about that. I agree with you. It does for some, it actually moves into the next financial year, so the project isn't going to be completed before we need to do reporting. So absolutely, we are definitely you're going to have written confirmation of that. Jim Gorman wrote a great email for his students and for the parents, updating them on this change. And Jim, you've offered to actually share that with the rest of the group. So I'm certainly going to be sending that on, because that's it's a really nicely formulated communication that you may with pleasure copy and paste, cut and replace as it suits you. But Amit, that is a confirmation. You will certainly get that in writing. So if we go back to the slides, what I've done is, if we have a look at the schedule, so I'm in the process of updating the schedule now with this change. So with the launch moving to October, we are going to be able to complete the NASA high altitude balloon project. That is always scheduled for August 15th. It does move by a few days because it's very weather dependent. This is the launch from New Mexico. So we are going to be able to complete this. However, it's not going to be exactly the same payload that you are going to use on the International Space Station, because Jim, if you want to share with us the condition that those payloads were in when they came back from New Mexico. They were full of dust and grime and everything else. So it's going to be, you can certainly have the same design, but it won't be the exact hardware that you're going to send. We're going to make sure that you have a duplicate for that. Jim, should I hand over to you?
So, yeah, sure. So this is the payload, and it was covered in red dust because it's red soil out there, and there's actually still a bunch of it on it. We couldn't get it all off. It really like hit the ground. It's open to the atmosphere. It just kind of sits on top of this almost 700-pound box, metal and wood box that goes up, and it comes crashing down on a parachute. And there's no real like covering to protect it or anything. They're all just kind of on there. So it takes a beating, that's for sure.
Right. Yeah, Jim, absolutely.
And then
Thank
last
you
year,
very
I think,
much.
yeah, this summer it was delayed almost 2 weeks. So yeah, it could be we went out there and 2 days after it was supposed to go, we finally got the okay. But then once they set it up, we were almost ready to launch it and they pulled the plug. So they had to like take everything back down. That's how like they monitor the weather like crazy. They try to fit it in, but sometimes the weather just does not play well. And they're very cautious. It has to land in a certain way. There's a whole lot of safety factors that go into it. But, yep.
Absolutely. So that is a whole project in itself. We will begin our paperwork next month in February with NASA Goddard. And then what we'll be doing is we will be including everybody. If you are able to take the time out to maybe join some of the workshops that we have with NASA, there's a lot of bureaucracy, well, I would say paperwork, actually that needs to be done. I wouldn't say it's necessarily bureaucratic because it's not unnecessarily bureaucratic at all. But there is a lot of paperwork that needs to be completed, which we will do. It's just a very interesting process to be part of a NASA project and to see what all of that entails. So what I've been doing is that I've been working that into the schedule. So we can see here, this is not complete. I must say my brain's been a little bit fried by moving these dates around, but it's okay. I will get there. So what we'll be doing is I've put in a number of workshops here around the high altitude balloon project so that we can make absolutely sure that we're ready for that. And once we receive those payloads back, you will receive them, and then you can analyze the data that's on the SD card, and then absolutely confirm what is going to be shipped off early September for the ISS launch. What I really like about this project and about the change that we have here is that a lot of the processes that you're going to be going through with the high altitude balloon project are the same as you would be going through for the International Space Station. There's deadlines that you're going to need to meet. The code reads the sensor data and saves it to the SD card for analysis later. And so it's a parallel project where you need to meet those deadlines and you need to meet those deliverables. But also what it does is it gives you an opportunity to use a lot more of your sensors. Bianca, maybe this is a little bit of a surprise pass for you, but maybe if you wouldn't mind sharing with everybody that we can actually accommodate 6 X chips as the experiment on this high altitude balloon project. We're not limited to the 4.
Yeah, so a little bit of a pass here, but let's see if I can put something together. So we have 2 different cores. We have our normal core that we're using, and the thing is that this change here is relatively new. So I'm not necessarily gonna say this is how it's gonna work. But the fact is that on the old core, on the core you have now, when you fly on ISS, you have room for two because the core is shorter than the longer core we have here. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that, but you can see the one is shorter than the other one. So on this one here, I can put 3 chips next to each other. So here we have another one. And the reason why we can do that is because the length here is 96 millimeter. So that's just within 1U. And since we are in control of how we make the box for when we fly on a high altitude balloon launch, we can fit it inside. The reason why we can't do that with a Nanorex is because the Nanorex box we have been provided with, and they have like thicker walls, so therefore we can't fit the same amount of chips inside. However, we also might just be able to, instead of flying with our extended core that we fly with, so this one we're using on a high altitude balloon launch. So we might actually also configure it slightly different and keep using the same one here, and then negotiate with the balloon team, Judy. So instead of we having, the chips in that layer here, we are putting it together like this one instead. So you can imagine that there will be like another set of chips, so you have 6 chips. So now it's longer, but it's narrow. And since again we are in control over the box we make for the ISS, we could probably say we have 6 chips and it allows us to use the same core as we do on ISS.
Great, Bjarke, thank you very much. Yes, so that core that Bjarke is referring to is this one that should have arrived this week. Mike, I think when I checked earlier today, it looked like yours was still on the way in Montana.
Yeah, we haven't gotten ours yet. I have shipping info on it, but yeah, we haven't seen it yet.
Okay. I mean, it was really interesting because when I went to the website, okay, on the website it says that you're going to receive it at exactly 2:13, which I thought was like a little bit too accurate. Exactly 2:13. Yeah. Okay. So, but you should be receiving it today. Declan, were you able to collect your package from the Postnet?
Yes, I have indeed. I've got it near me now.
Okay, perfect. Annette, I can see you have yours as well. Amanda, do you have your package? Did you receive your package?
Yes, we got it in yesterday.
Okay, fantastic. Great. So what you received is you received the new call, and this is really wonderful. What Bjarke did is that he developed the code that can read all of the sensors that you've received, and write the data to the SD card. The SD card, if you insert it on the interface, it's actually on the board itself. So what we did is we loaded each of these cores before they left our premises. We loaded with that code, so they should actually work straight out of the box for you. And so what we did is we loaded the code, and then we were able to test each one of the boards, so we knew that everything was working perfectly. So for those of you where you feel that you're running out of time for writing the code yourselves, there is code that will work for you. So that pressure is off. What you also received in your package was 10 of these prototyping boards, so that if you want to actually try some other sensors, They need to be I2C sensors. So what you can do, you can build that onto these smaller X chips, prototyping X chips. So you receive 10 of those, and then you would have received maybe one or two of the larger boards that would fit for the ISS project. So if you're going to experiment, please rather experiment on the smaller ones. We can get tons of these to you. We have had thousands of these made, whereas the larger boards they're a lot more limited in terms of the run that we were able to get through at the end of last year. And in the workshop yesterday, one of the discussions was instead of trying to put 4 sensors onto the big board, why not actually do 4 of the smaller ones, 1 sensor on each, so that if one of them isn't working, you can always remove it from the circuit. And also maybe you want to mix it up a little bit. You want to have some of the standard white X chips with some of your prototype boards, that kind of thing. So we have prototype boards, and then what you also received, and I don't have it here, maybe somebody can hold it up, and that is the LoRa radio component, X chip. So what that does is that connects to this 20-pin connector that you have on both of your cores, and so that is for building a TinyGS ground station. Dr. Afriki, there we go. I mean, thank you very much. Yes, so that is the LoRa, the long-range radio interface with an antenna connector. So Dr. Afriki, who joins us periodically in these workshops from Cameroon, he has developed a course on Canvas that I'm going to give everybody access to, and he is at the moment actually updating that so that it is very applicable to these new cores that we have. As well as there's been a massive update to and change to the TinyGS website itself. So he's updating that course. So that is also something that you can do at your school, is you can build a TinyGS ground station. And what I'm going to do is I'm quickly going to share my screen. I want to show you the TinyGS website. For those of you that this is something new, so let me just do that. Okay, so what we have here is if you go to TinyGS, if you just have a look for tinygs.com, you can see here, here's the map. Here is a map. I always unfortunately do this when I try to scroll on this website. So what it is it's a global map of all of the TinyGS ground stations in the world, and those are the green ones that are operating. And you can see there are some areas where there's just nothing. There's very few on the African continent, quite a number on the, especially like more towards the eastern seaboard of the US, and definitely many UK and Europe. And then these signs are actually the satellites that are in orbit that are running on the TinyGS ground station network, the TinyGS network. And so that data is being downloaded by all of these ground stations and then added to an MQTT server, IoT style, and then shared with the community. So it's very much a global community of satellites and ground stations. So if we go in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the ground station it's actually at Parklands. So if I go here and I search,
Judy, Declan did put it in the chat, if that might be a little easier.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's great, Connor. Thank you, Declan. So here we can see this is the ground station that's at Parklands, just outside Cape Town, and you can see the coverage is absolutely amazing that it's able to cover in terms of the sky. And these are the packets of data that are downloaded, the satellites that they come from, and just the data that they share. It's quite interesting, whether it's in sunlight or it's not, what the power that it's running, the temperature of the board, the temperature of the solar panels, and things like that. So it's all, from a telemetry perspective, it's all pretty interesting. And it may actually be something that you want to use one day when you do your own high altitude balloon projects, or when you launch your own satellites. You may actually want to leverage this network. So you have that component as well. So you can build a tiny GES ground station and set it up. Right. Okay. I think I've actually come to the end of my spiel, believe it or not. It's not often that Judy's come to the end of her spiel. So yeah, I'm busy updating those dates. And yeah, we've received our new hardware. And so our timelines are now going to look more towards, for the payloads, we're going to need to receive the payloads very early September. And once I have the contract from Voyager, I'm going to share those exact dates with you, because that will be in the scope of work that they will have in that contract. Great. Anything else from anybody?
Just quickly from my side of things, I just want to clarify, I'm not entirely sure. Is Parklands College going to be involved in this HAB mission component, or only the ISS component? Can't remember being updated on that.
Everybody's involved in both.
Okay,
Everybody's
I see.
involved in both. Yeah, because the original plan included a high altitude balloon project, which we were going to do, sort of January. And then the service provider that we thought we had secured, it wasn't going to be able to give us a guaranteed return of our payloads. And then Mike Wallach very kindly also, offered to do one, but it was also really not a great time of year. How is your snow in Montana at the moment, Mike? How's your weather?
Yeah, it's winter. We've got about a foot on this and in the valley and about 4 feet up in the mountain. So yeah, it could have been a hard recovery if we landed.
Yeah,
Out.
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, Declan, so what it is that we're now all going to be able to do the balloon project with NASA Goddard, where we are always guaranteed recovery in August. So that is now coming back into the schedule now that the dates have moved out. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, okay, I see. Wonderful. And one more quick thing. If I could just, Bjarke, if I could just quickly ask you something after the meeting.
You can, but you can also ask now. Then everybody, if it's related to the ISS.
Well, it's more so just on the PCB files you sent.
Okay, that's fine. We can do it afterwards.
Great. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments?
I have a question really quick. With the new delivery of the chips that we just got on the Kavana dashboard, is it the same name for where that data is going to run, or is it different with the new boards?
It is. It's the MaxIQ index. It is. It's the same. It's the same index as that newer version that you received.
Okay,
Absolutely.
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Judy, I know that we're going to talk about that on the meeting, but maybe someone else is having the same trouble as me. I'm trying to find the recording of video workshop 2 and 3 on the Canvas course, and I don't know where to look for it.
Okay. I'm gonna have to redo those. I'm gonna have to redo those links. Yeah. So if you don't mind just giving me another day or two, and I'm gonna re-upload those and with this one as well. Great. Okay, anything else, Mr. Bianca, anything from your side that you want to share with anybody? You're okay there? Good. Wonderful. Good. Thank you, everybody. And I'll be sending you some confirmations. And then also, once I've updated the schedule, I will send you all a notification to have a look at that schedule once again for those new dates.